Hello, everyone.
Hello,
Right now,
everybody.
right now, we are going to meet the engineer behind the Tower of Terror hyper-realistic model that you might have seen around the internet, especially on Reddit. It is always great putting a face to a project when it comes to fun facts, trivia, wildest experiences, and in quotation marks, Disney cast member secrets. So, without further ado, Can you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Adam Hendrickson. I have been a fan of the Tower of Terror ever since I was a little kid, and I wrote it for the first time when I was 6 years old. And ever since then, I've just been fascinated by it. I think that what when you're a kid, things that scare you end up really grabbing your attention and fascinating you. So that's why I've become the kind of man that I am to come up with this Tower of Terror model. Just because I love it so much. It's really a part of who I am, I think. Ask anyone who knows me, they'll tell you I'm a huge fan of the Tower of Terror. And beyond this model, I've written a song about the Tower of Terror. I've drawn countless pictures of the Tower of Terror. So I'm just a huge fan. I'm really excited to be able to show my model and talk about it. And yeah, I was really happy, Tony, when you told me that you actually had seen an image of my model before on Reddit. I was surprised too because I hadn't. I've only had this thing for about 2 years. So the fact that it's been there, it's only been the 2 years. So the fact that you have seen it in that time makes me feel really nice about it. That other fans of the tower have been able to see it and enjoy it. And if you're now seeing it for the first time, I really like to show off that it's nice and three-dimensional, and it's
Yeah.
very
Sorry to
proportional.
interrupt, but may you please bring it slightly closer to the camera so
Yeah,
that we can
yeah.
all see it? I know sometimes that things come across as very tiny, but if you don't mind zooming into the front, that'd be
Yeah.
amazing.
And I
Thank
do
you.
apologize. It's not completely painted. So this is actually the second version of the model that I've made. I haven't specified that with you yet, Tony, but this is actually the second iteration of the model. This one, as you can see on the back, it's not fully painted yet, but the front for sure is totally done. I think that's the most important part, really. But
I I agree. I am curious. All right, 1 second. Let me say hi to some people in the chat. And when I'm saying hi, oh hey Elisa, Chaz, good to see you. What's up? And happy Thursday, happy almost Friday Eve. And also, I am curious. I know I'm really curious right now. But what got you into building the model itself?
well, um, that I would say I've always been into building. Like I've always really been into Legos. And as a kid, I remember building little like mini Lego models of the Tower of Terror, and the colors were never right or anything like that. But
Oh,
once I and I know I went in more detail with this with you, Tony, but once I became like an adult, I was about 21 years old when I really got back into the Tower of Terror. And right at around that time, I what I wanted was a Lego set of the Tower of Terror. And I initially thought that I would go and like design my own Lego set. There's software you can download to like design your own Lego models, but I figured that would be a little bit too expensive. And really, I thought that um, another thing that I was thinking of, especially, was the sign. I wanted the sign to be as accurate to the real model or the real like building as possible, and I just didn't think I'd be able to do that in Lego form. So I started thinking, and you've probably seen this, Tony, the model that they have in Hollywood Studios in I can't remember the name of the exhibit. I think that name has changed a few times, but they have the original model. I think it's about this size. So I was like, why don't I just try to make that out of whatever I can find? And so this model is made out of it's 5 millimeter thick foam board from the Dollar Tree. Um, eight um, eight of those large panels will be enough to build you a whole tower, and it's literally like $8 for the parts. So
that
yeah.
that is so awesome to know about. And also speaking of drawing about the tower, absolutely love saying that, and I just love all day long. Some days, if I don't have anything better to do, just sit there and just draw the Tower of Terror nonstop, and I mainly, and for me, when it comes to the tower, I got interested in the tower back in 2005 when I first saw that gigantic 13-story structure down Sunset Boulevard. Something about seeing the ride cars moving up and down as the elevator doors opened just captivated my attention out of nowhere.
Absolutely. And I think that's totally worth mentioning, and something I don't know if I've ever seen anybody say this about the tower, but I think this all the time is if you take an attraction like the Haunted Mansion, for instance, they have the Haunted Mansion building there. You can sort of pretend that you're going inside of it, but really the whole ride is taking place in a warehouse behind the whole thing. What's really magic to me about the tower is the whole ride is taking place inside the building. You're actually visiting the hotel. You're actually in the building, and you're right. The It's not even an illusion because it's really happening, but the visual of the elevator doors opening and then you see the people in there, like this is the ride. It's not just
Yes.
some facade to make you pretend like, nah, dude, it's all built inside. It's actually more like they built a ride and then they built a hotel themed shell around it, because it's there's no empty space in the tower. It's all used by the ride, and I think that's awesome, and I think it totally adds to the immersion and the whole experience of and also just why I love it. It makes it lovable because it's the ride.
Definitely. And also, what I find really magical, what I find really wild, is just the fact that you can actually go into the hotel, and rather than going in from what you said, going into the facade, you are actually inside the hotel. And the ride, unlike Mount Everest, the mansion is an actual fully functional building, including cast member restrooms and the alleged break room between the drop shafts.
It could, yeah, it could be. I mean, I don't know where else you would put a break room, right? I mean, that's got to be the perfect place for it. So I totally buy it.
Same, and also another thing is, as you exit the ride towards the gift shop, I believe you can see the silver room and the sunset room. The silver conference room is likely a cast member restroom area, or just like either a restroom area or an office space. I've actually been trying to get in touch with Imagineer Joshua J. Harris. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Sounds
Just to see if there's an actual restaurant or an actual restaurant room behind the Sunset Room doors. Just because the Tower of Town was supposed to have an actual ride
Yeah, and I wonder too, because
restaurant.
there's always been talks of adding a restaurant into the tower. I know a few years ago they were talking about just adding a bar into the Tower of Terror. And so you would think that there would have to be some empty space or space that could become empty that they could build that in. And maybe that's exactly what's behind the Sunset Room. It honestly could just be a totally empty room that they just have for 30 plus years now never done anything with, just out of just lack of motivation or whatever. But to me, hearing that they consider adding certain elements into the ride like a restaurant or a bar makes me think that there is more empty space that isn't being utilized. Like, why else would they even suggest that? If they, like, they're not going to be able to build more inside the ride if all the space is being used. But the Sunset Room, I'm just thinking about the ride, and like that would be the place to put a restaurant or something inside the tower. So if there's not something in there now, I don't know what it could be.
It definitely makes me wonder, it definitely makes me wonder, especially when like Joshua said that is likely just a bunch of support beams and on dirt floor, just propping up the tower, and the
Hmm.
only way to access the sunset room is to open up one of the back windows and go in from there. That's one of the rumors. And also another thing is, which really makes me bummed out, is that the tower was supposed to be an actual hotel.
I know, I know.
I
I
know.
I know that the reason that they didn't do that was because the ride is just so noisy, but me personally, I would have no problem with it. I mean, come on,
Same.
they shut the ride down at like 9 o'clock at night or whatever, so what's the big deal?
Yep. Like what I could see, like they could have at least they could have at least shut the ride down and said, "Hey, if you want to stay at the Tower of Terror, the Hollywood Tower Hotel," except the fact that the ride is going to start up around like 8 in the morning, and around 9 in the morning, so you hear ride noise. But then, like the ride will shut down at 9 p.m. So it'll go for 12 hours.
Yeah, you know what though? The only place they could ever put a room, if they were ever going to put it, they'd have to put it somewhere up at the top. You wouldn't want to be down here. That'd be so boring, right?
It'd be like, it would literally be like, it'd literally be like you're stuck in the basement of a hotel.
Mm.
When in reality, when the 1930s advertisement said that you would get a beautiful view of Hollywood, not the basement would.
Yeah, exactly. At least Sunset Boulevard, I'll take what I can get.
Yes, and another very disappointing thing about the hotel is that you see the like little T shape right there. That
Mhm.
is actually the model house where it houses the 132-pound model, a lot, which is awesome, 12 feet in length, which is actually 35 feet in length, and 12 feet in height. So unfortunately, there's no room for the Tip Top Club, which is kind of disappointing because it's more like a model house.
I know. You know what though, Tony? I couldn't even imagine this tower without the iconic ears on the side, that T shape, as you say.
Yes,
I've seen like earlier concept art of the tower before they had thought about all that, and it was just a regular tower. Like, I don't know, and I've seen very very rarely in real life architecture when they do this kind of thing where it's like a T shape. But I don't know, it really just adds to the menace of the ride to me. It just makes it feel, it just gives it a whole different identity in my eyes. And you
yeah,
see the same thing too in the old California Tower and the Paris Tower, and that's actually, they have got a little bit bigger ears, but I don't know. I kind of love the look of that. It makes it look really scary and unnatural.
yeah. What about in your eyes? What about the ears makes the tower come across as unscary and as unnatural?
Well, I don't know, just because it's definitely not something you see on buildings most of the time. And the other thing too about the tower that's kind of freaky is that it's really very flat, like on this side.
It
Like when
is.
when you look at it from the front, it's got a real nice uh, facade. It almost has sort of like almost like a devil horn kind of look. Where it's kind of coming out like a pitchfork almost. But when you turn it on the side, um, there's really like a trim on each corner, right? So it juts out a little bit more. So the real width, which would be this, it's actually just a little bit smaller, and there is this piece on the back that juts out a little bit. So when you're looking at it from the side, it doesn't really look that skinny. But I can tell you, as the guy who built the model, it started out as just a cube being this big bottom section, and then the next piece was the tower. And I was like, did I really measure that correctly? Because it just looked so thin and skinny. And it really, to me, it's scary because it looks like a building doing something it's not supposed to be doing. And I think that's awesome. I think it's awesome that it's a full scale building. I know that they use a little bit of like forced perspective in the park to make it look a little bit bigger, but even then it still is a really decent sizable thing.
It definitely is. And also, before I forget, hello, CJ. Let's see what the chat has to say. And let's see if the chat has any questions. So good to see you,
Sure.
CJL. And how good to see you, Chaz. Chaz says, we are admiring Adam's model of the Tower of Town. That would be awesome to see them. And Chaz also says, the top floor would be awesome. 13th floor, let's go.
Oh yeah, the Tip Top Club for sure, with a real Benny Hill orchestra up there too.
I would definitely listen to that. And also, speaking of architectural, I find it absolutely fascinating that that tower is doing, as you mentioned, is doing something that most buildings are not supposed to do.
Mhm.
which I actually find which I find really eye-opening, as somebody who stares at images of the town, but never notice that, but never notice that subtlety. Also, another thing I noticed about the model and the actual town is like the little, is like the little air vents, is like the little openings be below the drop shaft.
Oh, you talking about like right here?
Yes, what are they for? I'm curious.
I mean, I have no idea. You'd have to ask the architects, but I don't think they're for airflow. I don't think that. I think that on the real Tower of Terror, you have well, on the real thing, there's another structure right in the front, right? This is all
Yes.
would all be covered. But I think on the real structure, the air vents would be on the bottom of the drop shafts. This though, I do love this like little arched window pattern. I have no idea what it's really supposed to be. I would imagine that it's supposed to kind of look like stairs going up, and
Oh.
I think and you know if we're really going to get into a big conversation about the structure of the tower, I mean there's a lot to discuss, right? It's kind of impossible. Let me do something real quick. I'm going to take the sign off.
Yes, I would
And
love for you to info dump and to dump as much knowledge about the tower structure as you can.
oh yeah, so this I've thought about it a lot, obviously, but so this is what the tower would look like without the sign. And you probably know this too, Tony, that the tower that you see in the pre-show of the ride is not the same. It doesn't look the same
Exactly.
on the ride, or I'm sorry, in the pre-show. When you see the tower for the first time, the sign is like kind of up there. Actually,
Yes,
I don't know if that looks good on camera, but
it
it's
does.
and if you look at the indentations up in the like the very top here, it almost looks like the sign would have fit up there at one point. So, but the other thing is that if these sections right here were supposedly where those other parts of the building were, the sign is literally like covering it up. So there's no way the sign could have been there in the beginning.
Yeah.
What I've always figured, and I've seen a handful of people mention this, is that perhaps um, originally the Hollywood Tower Hotel sign was up a little bit more, like on that,
Yes.
and then during the 1939 Halloween incident, it fell
Oh,
right there. Because really, if you think about it, there's no way that the sign could exist in front of the elevator door.
not at all.
There's no way. I I think that at some point somebody thought it would be really cool if when you were at the top of the tower and the elevator doors opened, you could see the sign in front
Oh,
of you.
that's the best.
I imagine that's how this format came to be. And you notice in the California tower, they don't do that. The sign makes sense and everything, but
Yes.
and to me that just adds to the sort of unnatural spirit of the whole thing. You're just kind of confused when you're looking at it.
Yes.
And
Oh, sorry. Sorry. What were you saying? You can go.
no, well, back to these arches that you first asked about, like the whole point I'm trying to come to here is that I don't think that the Imagineers put that much thought into what the tower looked like pre-lightning incident and then afterwards. Like there's a lot of things that don't add up, but I think that these may have been like perhaps supposed to be like parts of the inside of the hotel before it got wiped out. I'm not sure if they felt the same way about the catwalks in the middle, but definitely like these parts on the side where it looks all scarred and torn. Um, but I don't know. That I always love this detail though, and I love when they put the orange lights in those windows at night too.
Yes. It makes it look. It actually adds to the creepiness factor. And another thing is like when you said that the Imagineers did not really think through their entire hotel design. What are some of the biggest inconsistencies that you noticed besides the sign being in the wrong place?
Yeah, sign in the wrong place. Well, really, if you're just thinking, so that's the big one for me because if if these parts of the building vanish, then the sign can't possibly be there. The other thing too is it looks totally different from the pre-show video. It's a small detail, and I'm sorry that I don't have my windows painted on, but if I did have them, you would see two columns of windows. The one in the pre-show has three. And to me, I think it's an easy fix. You know, what you do is you make another pre-show. You don't even have to make a whole new video. Just make another visual of the tower, make it look like this, and then
Yes,
if you really want to be extra, just add a little visual gag or whatever of the sign falling in front of the doors or whatever. But that's just it's not enough to bother me that much, but it's always been in the back of my mind, like how could they not get that right? Like it's
exactly.
perfect for California, so I don't know. We'll see.
And the really strange thing about the biggest discrepancy that I noticed about the pre-show is that when you watch the pre-show, it resembles just the look of the hotel front of the hotel looks more like a Scottish castle, and something about the front and something about the texture of the front of the hotel when the hotel's shown on the black and white screen, it actually looks like brickwork instead of pink stucco.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's like, and I if you look at old concept art of the tower, it does look more like that, you know, stone brick castle almost look, but I don't know. And like I said, it would really be an easy fix. They could do it overnight and just update the video, and then it would be fine, and it would be like zero work to do. So they could. The option's always there.
Definitely. And also, Chaz says that your model rocks.
Oh, thank you, chat.
Yeah.
Um,
Also, does the chat have any questions? And also another question I have is, do you have any wild or interesting stories about your experiences riding the tower?
Well, the first time I rode the tower was when I was 6 years old. My mom and dad had planned a trip to Disney, and they had gotten me a book all about Disney World. And the Tower of Terror I was fascinated by it. I just saw a picture of the facade.
Mm.
I was a kid. I didn't really comprehend what it was or anything, but I just knew that it was a cool thing that I wanted to go see. So on the day we went to Hollywood Studios, I went to see it. I remember being excited and walking up to it, and I rode the thing, and I was probably really scared, like going into it, and I think watching the pre-show and then going into the boiler really scared me. But at the end of the day, I was pretty angry actually because I felt betrayed. I thought I was going in for something fun, and I ended up getting really scared. Like I said, that did not have a negative effect on me long term. I ended up becoming very fascinated by my fear, fascinated by the tower. But that was my first experience. I was scared, and then from there, I didn't want to go on any rides of any kind. I didn't want to go on any roller coasters or anything for a long time. I got over that fear in my teenage years, and then when I was 22 years old, I was visiting Florida to I was dog sitting actually for my grandparents, and I told my grandpa that if I was going to come out to Florida, I wanted to go to Disney World and see the Tower of Terror. This was right around the time I had just gotten back into it. I can't tell you why I got back into the tower. I had a huge obsession when I was a younger kid, and it just came back to me one day. I probably saw a video or something, but me and my grandpa, we went to the Tower of Terror. We rode it. I rode it 3 times. He rode it twice with me. That was awesome. And then a few months later, I met my now wife. And funny enough, one of the first things we ever talked about was my Tower of Terror model. I was actually in the very beginning stages of making it at the time. I didn't even have the sign done at that time. Um, we went to Disney on our own. We rode the Tower of Terror a bunch and a bunch of times.
Nice.
We met TJ and we took some pictures with him. My wife and I, once we got married, we took a honeymoon trip and we went, well, right back to Florida.
Heck
And
yes.
yes, we got back on the Tower of Terror and we saw TJ again. And I really thought that I would be able to use, oh, we're on our honeymoon. We weren't making it up or anything. We were on our honeymoon, but he said that actually too many people had called off that day. So if he had time, he would have very happily given us a special Tower of Terror like tour around the lobby. But he promised us that next time we came that he would deliver. But he did let us ride again, and that was a really special moment because I got to see. So if you can imagine, we rode the ride just regularly one time, and now we're coming out of the queue. And on the way out of the basement area into the photo gallery, I see TJ like, saying bye to people, I walk up to him. And for context, when I had first run into TJ during our first Disney trip, which was about 6 to 9 months prior, something, it was less than a year. When I first saw him, I showed him pictures of my Tower of Terror model. And I was like, hey, I would love to show you this. And he was like, oh, yeah, that's really cool. When I saw him on my honeymoon less than a year later, I reminded him, like, hey, do you remember me? I'm this guy showing pictures. Oh, yeah, I remember you. So then I asked him for a special thing. He said that they were busy, but he said that we could ride again if we wanted. So he he opened some cast member door and he took us down a little hallway. And I remember specifically that the hallway, it was a hallway that was not meant to be seen by the normal ride goer. It was, I think by default, that hallway I went through was like the chicken exit, like the last part of the chicken exit before you would come out onto the main floor of just like Hollywood Studios. But we were going backwards. So we went through this hallway, and I remember there were doors and stuff in the hallway that were themed towards like still the Tower of Terror. Like I remember there was like laundry room and like laundry room was the one I really remember, but I just remember the theming of the hotel continued even into these backstage areas that you didn't see, which was really cool. That all ended, of course, once we got into the normal Otis elevator, which just so that must have been the one in the back of the tower here. Because I remember thinking once I got in that elevator, like, oh man, like this is the elevator that goes all the way to the top and like probably goes to the break room, but it wasn't. But when we got out of that elevator, we stepped. If you think of the boiler room, all of the elevator doors, there's 1/5 smaller door in the middle for the chicken exit. But we came out of that door, and the dude just like let us go on the ride again without waiting in line, all because we talked to TJ.
Sweet. And also for those who not know, TJ was the original. TJ was the original bellhop. TJ was the original bellhop who was there since opening day. And also, Chaz does have something to say. When Disneyland California still had Tower of Terror in the back of the elevator loading area, there was a huge frayed cable hanging from the darkness. The rumor was that the cable was tested to see when it would break. Is that rumor true?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't think that that's out of character for Disney to put something like that in the ride. I mean, they got to test it at some point. It makes me think though that I about 2 years ago I remember seeing it was an auction or it was like an eBay thing where they were selling pieces of the cable from the Orlando, Florida Tower of Terror. They had if you know, they a few years ago they revamped the ride or like, you know, just like fixed it up. And I guess part of that was replacing the elevator cables, and some of those cables or parts of the braided cable, like just one piece of the braid ended up on eBay. But it was like really expensive.
Wow.
But and I remember thinking to myself, like, I'm gonna kick myself if I don't get this now because it's not gonna show up again. But I did not get it, so I don't have it. But
That that would be amazing. That'd be a dream come true. Is if I could own a piece of the towel, even I'm not going to do this, but even if I could get a little piece of the paint, that'd be
me too.
amazing to get a
I'll tell
paint
you
chip.
what, though, Tony, I tried to do that when I went to the Tower of Terror, but that paint, I mean, the thought that because I thought about that. I'm like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna scrape a little piece of paint off the wall. I'm gonna put it in my pocket and be like, I'll have a little piece. I got there, and the first thought that I had was, okay, they've prevented everybody from ever trying to do that to probably any Disney ride. You got to
They
imagine there's
did.
people. I mean, because you are right there, like right next to the pink wall. Like there's like a glaze over the whole thing. Like you
It is. And I also think another reason that they put the glaze there is to keep is to also make it waterproof and hurricane proof, just because of the intense weather that Florida receives.
for sure, for sure. Yeah, and you wonder too. You probably know this, that there's like this. on the real tower, I don't have it on mine, but there's like a gutter that goes all the way down from up here. You know what I mean? There's like that metal gutter piece. It goes all the way down. I always wonder if that's a real gutter or if that's just something that they built for just to make it look like an old building or something.
Because of just the amount of flooding and rain that Florida receives, I believe that that's a real ghetto. And I'm also wondering, how come you constructed a second model?
Well, one of my biggest issues with my first version of the model was the lack of attention to detail right here at the top. And to me, that's like the most important part of the whole tower. So on my first iteration of the tower, you see all of this nice trim alongside
Yes.
here. That was not there. And if you go look at the pictures, it's also not there. And so I just decided, like, at that point, the whole thing was painted, and I also had spackling over the whole thing. So to go and cut the new pieces and then glue them on, it was just going to be a headache. So I figured I had so much fun building the first one. And, you always make things better, the
You
second time.
do.
You learn from your mistakes. And, like, for instance, like, I mean, it probably won't strike with anyone, but, like, this whole piece was one piece, and that's something that I learned just by making it the second time. But there was a lot of things that, like, just by having the experience and knowledge of building the tower the first time, when I try to go and build it again for the second time, I'm gonna know the things I'm gonna run into. So, like, okay, I won't do it that way. Another thing is that on this version of the tower, you'll see that all of the shingles this is an actual, like, shingle texture. On the even on these little posts. On the original version, it was literally just red painted cardstock paper, but this time I went and found red shingled, like, for model makers, like red roof, like things you could cut and stuff. And so I just cut them into all the shapes you need. But it really adds a lot. The walls and the facade of the tower itself is very smooth. I know it's a stucco, but at this scale, it's like, you can't really do anything. But so just to have these shingles on top as well really helps to give the whole thing a little bit more texture. And I wouldn't be able to go into specifics, but I remember there was something about the doors that were not off or not, like, in proportion. It was, like, bugging me. So I just figured it would be fun to make another one, a second one. I'm much happier with this one. Oh, and one more thing too, the color of the first model was a little bit more of a hot pink than this. This, I feel like, is really, really close to the real pink color of the Tower of Terror. The first one was just a little bit more, like, darker, vibrant, like a hot pink almost. But this one really is close to the real one.
I am curious, but how did you get the color to match so accurately?
I just guessed. So I went to Hobby Lobby and actually, you know what? If you give me just 1 second, I'll go grab all the paints that I used. Give me literally 10 seconds.
All right, that'd be wonderful. All right, so Chaz says that is awesome and an amazing amount of detail work. I cannot agree more. I cannot even agree more, Chaz. Absolutely wonderful, absolutely breathtaking, and I think that is so amazing. Just like seeing like how much work and detail this tower has.
Yeah, so right here, this is the pink. This is Liquitex Basic Acrylics, light pink. The first iteration of the tower, when I said it was a little bit more hot pink, I think I just straight up used this paint. I didn't mix anything into it or anything. So when I went for this one, I just took this paint and added the tiniest bit of white, or maybe it was probably this, where did it go? It's a tan color, but it's the same tan color that's used for all these, for all the tan pieces. And this was the original red for the roofs before I went to the shingled roofs. Oh, here's that tan. It's dark titanium white, actually, but this is I don't mix this at all. This is just the straight up color I use for all of the tan for every tan little piece of trim and detail on there. And I also have these are the actual shingle roofs that I cut. You can see a little cut right there actually from one of them. But yeah, other than that, it's the foam board, it's Gorilla Glue, it's some tape. I tape the foam into place before I glue it, just to make sure it's nice and stable while it's gluing, and that's it. Other than the 3D printed sign, and actually, you know what? I would love to show off this sign a little bit more and talk about how I made it.
I'd love to hear all about it.
All right. Well, here it is, the Hollywood Tower Hotel sign. So what
Love
I
it.
was I found a 3D model of the Tower of Terror online. I think it was actually the California version. And I brought it into Blender, which is like a 3D modeling program, and I just selected all of the letters, and I'm very very inexperienced, but I do have a little bit of experience with 3D modeling. So I just tried to get just the letters out of someone else's model. And then my dad is into 3D printing, so he actually was the one to suggest to me that, like, if you want to 3D print a sign, let me know. And so I sent him over the letters, and he printed each letter individually. And then, of course, the and the hotel were individual prints as well. And actually, you know what? Up in here, let me
Yes.
out. I've got, yes, these were early prints of the and the hotel. You can see this one I actually went on the outline and just did it in Sharpie. I don't know
Lovely.
why I didn't end up using these ones, but I still have them sitting around. But this is what they looked like. And then each letter and word got multiple coats of glow in the dark paint. Which is also responsive to UV light. You can see that second O is totally stripped of any paint so that it never lights up, just like the real thing.
Yes.
So my whole thing with this tower was making it as accurate as possible, especially the sign. If the sign was off, the whole thing was going to be off. So what I did was I took a photo of the front of the tower, and I adjusted the proportions of the photo just a little bit. Like, you got to imagine that someone taking a picture is taking it from the ground up. But I wanted a picture that was essentially just like straight on. So I tried to get it just right. And then I printed out that picture of just the sign. I held it up in front of my model, made sure that it looked right and everything. I actually remember getting it right on try number 1. It was literally perfect. So then I took that picture, I flipped it upside down, and then I put all of the letters in place on top of the picture. And I basically made the sign upside down. But the reason that I did it on top of the paper like that was so that I would make sure that each letter was exactly where it is on the real thing. And so while it was drying, it kind of looked like this. If you can imagine the paper underneath with the sign on it, and everything lined up underneath. And then these are just little wooden square dowels that I cut and glued and painted together. And then it's the same thing down here under the hotel. It's just more of the same wooden dowel. It's the same size and everything. But this piece right here behind the originally this was more of that wooden dowel stuff, but I wasn't happy with it. So this actually is a cut off piece of hamster cage. If you see, you might be able to imagine that a little bit. It's a piece of a hamster cage that I cut to size and then super glued the on. And then I put these big long nails through the back of it, and then there's these little pieces of foam to just complete the whole look. And then there's holes on the side where it fits in, and it just slides right in.
That is so neat. And also, another thing is, you're so right about the sign. The moment that the sign is off, the entire tower is off. So I also, so before talking to you about, before going live with you, I also remember I also remember that you got yourself some Tower of Terror blueprints, and that you converted feet into pixels.
Yeah. Well, so this isn't the blueprints that I use, but maybe this is just a little visual. My sister got this for me for Christmas a few years ago, but this is a rendering of the side print of the tower. But if you go on Google and you Google Tower of Terror blueprints, you're not going to find all of them, but you will find. Um, I wish I had a picture to bring up, but you'll basically see kind of like this. It's a side view and then a front view and then another side view or whatever. And yes, you're exactly right. What I did was I took that image, I brought it into my image editing software. I I fixed it up so that when you looked at the blueprint of the side of the tower and the blueprint of the front of the tower, like everything lined up so that you could take measurements on it. And then, yes, what I did was I used the little select tool in, I use paint.net actually. So I select whatever and just count however many pixels something is. So for instance, like let me choose a piece like this piece right here that goes from the bottom of this little tiny red roof all the way to the bottom. This is a cut piece of foam. So in the photo editing software, I will go to the rendering of the front of the tower and then select from here to here to get the size of that shape. And basically what I did was however many pixels it was however many millimeters I was going to cut it to. And that ended up with getting it's a 1:80 square or 1:80 scale. If the real tower is about 200 feet tall, this is about 2 feet tall. So
I'm curious, but where did you find the blueprints?
I just Googled Tower of Terror Orlando blueprints, and it was one of the first things that showed up. Um, I do know for sure that the real blueprints of the tower, or at least copies of them, went up for auction
Oh,
probably 5 or 6 years ago now. But um, the only ones that I think are really readily available are the one of the front and then the one of the side. I mean, this is pretty much what the side one looks like. This one has a lot more detail
yes.
than what is needed. But yeah, and yeah, you really just have to go into each detail. And the tricky thing at first was just getting step one is the hardest. Making sure that you have the initial dimensions correct, because if you don't have that, then you're going to be screwed basically for the whole project. So, and I remember being like extra careful with like the first big cube, this big cube, and then the big tower. But once you start to get to like into the fine details, like when I'm making like this little balcony piece, like I'm probably not going to my computer image and then measuring the pixels. Like I'm probably just going to take my ruler to the actual model and just see what'll fit best in there. If you get the measurements right up until a certain point, like it's going to be fine. I see a lot of models of the tower, and no disrespect to anybody, but I see a lot of models of the tower that don't necessarily capture the true proportion of the ride. I see a lot of people who get this part right. This is really easy to, but to me, I
Yes.
when you have this back part as well, it just adds so much more, and it makes it look way scarier.
I can I tell you what is this is like no it's like it's no bashing on anybody, but when it comes to tower models, I feel that the biggest mistakes I'm going to use mine as an example. That the biggest mistakes on the tower model is I'm so guilty of this. It's not even funny. Is either getting the ears too much, like this one, overdoing the drop shaft to the point where the windows are touching the floor. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, like the two little side pieces, that is so wrong.
Yeah, it's
And
well, fine. It's a caricature, right? It's the ears are one of the biggest identifiers of the tower. And it's funny. I when I was measuring these ears, they're a lot smaller than I thought they'd be. They really were
they
not that
are.
big. You can tell it. They looked like they're supposed to. And then the drop shaft towers as well. These are actually broken a little bit. If you see this big ledge right here that I'm rubbing my finger on. And then you see it almost steps up a little bit for that first door. It's not supposed to do that. It's supposed to just end right there, but I did not get the measurements exactly right.
It
But
is okay. I know I'm kind of butting in, but I'm curious, what when it comes to tower models in general, what are the biggest mistakes that you see?
the sign, I mean, and that's not really a mistake. I feel like the sign is definitely a really hard thing to replicate. I just got lucky that my dad is into 3D printing, but I mean, you've seen models of the tower. You see how they do them. Um, I've never seen anybody do a full 3D sign like me. Oh, there was a guy who literally just made a sign, and he did a really good job with it. But that's the main thing that I would look for. Like if I was in the market to get a model of the Tower of Terror, like to me the sign is the number one thing that I'm gonna like want to I wanna I would love it for to be able to light up and stuff. And if I'm thinking about the official model of the tower that they have in Hollywood studios, even that, the sign is like totally off. It's not at all the same. And so my idea was to sort of just make that model, but with a real sign, a one that works. Other than that, the color is another thing that I see messed up a lot. A lot of the people think the Tower of Terror is brown for some reason, but it is not. It is pink. It's beautifully pink. I know it's a little dirty, but it's pink. So
It is, you know, my biggest pet peeve when it comes to tower models is actually seeing people get out the brown pink and slaughter that tower in brown. I'm like, no, 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 that's not pink. And also, there was a model that I see that actually the sign actually where the sign lights up, and if you like hit the button, if you hit like the stop button, the entire tower goes into a show mode where it does like the narrates the entire pre-show and lights up. Have you seen
yeah,
that model?
yeah, I have, and I love that model. I think that is one of the better Tower of Terror models out there, just in terms of its production and everything like that. It's the only thing it's missing is the true scale of the attraction. This is to scale. This is I don't think that I've made any mistakes in like I think this is really architecturally sound is what I'm saying. And that is too. I'm not saying that that's not architecturally sound. I think that the main tower is 1-to-1. I think it's perfect. I think the sign is a little bit too green, but other than that, I love the lightning and the show effects like that. And I wanted to do the same kind of thing with my tower too. I wanted I've always tried to come up with some way to have like elevator doors that open and stuff and little elevator cars that go up and down. And I'd even be fine with something as simple as like a little pulley wheel on the top and then literally just like having cars go up and down. Like if it was that simple, I'd be fine with that. But I'd really love there to be some sort of elevator doors with maybe little actuators on the inside where they open as the car passes by and everything. Um, it just feels a little bit hollow. So I'd love to get the effect of the doors opening.
And also, hello, pops. Good to see you. Yeah, when it comes to the tower, I'm wondering, do you know any computer programming by chance, or have a way to actually get the tower to light up and synchronize with the show?
I definitely know more about computer programming than I do about actually installing lights in the thing. That would be my biggest like hurdle there. Um, my 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 best bet would be just personally just like throwing an LED light strip in there or like little fairy lights or something. But you're right, it would be really cool to have like a lightning sequence thing, and I'd love it to tie in with the the elevators going up and down and stuff. And so here's another thing about building a tower model is I don't have it right now. I haven't built another version of it, but there's a section here that comes out, right? That sits in front of the tower. What I did with my first version is I have a big old black light sitting behind that and it shines up at the tower. And that makes the sign illuminate really well and like beautifully, just having the black light shown up at it. But what's really cool is that the really powerful black light like instantly charges these little lights. So even if you just flash the black light on for just a second, the sign will still retain a little bit of luminosity. So I never did it in full force, but I always imagined it would be cool to integrate the black light into sort of a lightning effect, have it quickly flash light onto the tower, but then the sign will remain on because of it. It's just, this isn't an electronic sign or anything. It's literally just glow in the dark paint on the 3D printed letters. The only way you can get it to light up is by shining a bright light on it and then taking it away. But the black light makes it really pop.
Yes, I wish there was a way to do a demonstration.
Maybe one day, maybe one day. I mean, I'm still, as you can see, it's still a work in progress. I'm going to finish the thing 100% one day, but
Yeah, and I'm also wondering for anybody who wants to try building a town, do you have any like construction models, not construction models, but any blueprints or any instruction books about how to make a similar model?
so I have thought about that, and I have illustrated some very basic rough instructions that basically just outline the first few steps, which I think are the hardest. Um, but I would love to in the future come up with a real set of instructions, and it's not that much. My instructions that I end up making probably wouldn't go into an incredible amount of detail. um I mean, I would include references for like things where to get the red shingles and stuff, but as far as like creating patterns on how to cut that, like I don't know how far that kind of stuff would go. Or like with the sign, like I would definitely include like the models and stuff for the letters, but there's there's just a lot that there's a lot of different mediums at play here. And like, and another thing too is like these fire escape catwalks, like these are very, very kind of oddly designed. So the balcony sections are pieces of like trying to think, like wire fence, or like a big like mesh, like it's just basically a cut off piece of mesh, and there's five of them up there. And then these little pieces that represent the stairs, or just like the staircases going up, those are just little pieces of steel wire that I cut to size and then rolled flat with a steel plate in my feet. And it's like I went to such lengths to create the parts for this, that it's like, okay, yeah, I could create the instructions on how to do the foam and to get the shape of the whole tower and everything, but there's a lot of details in here that you might just have to get creative with on your own. And and like that. And I felt like, yeah, oh yeah, if I were to say one thing to anybody who would be building a model of the tower, my big advice would be to really, really, really pay close attention onto the basic shapes of the tower. And if you happen to be watching this, I'll try to go over them really quick. Because the problem that you'll run into is that the front of the tower has so many different layers to it that you don't know what to measure to cut your first piece. You don't know if you're supposed to measure from like the very outer piece of the edge, or if you're supposed to go in a little bit because it's a piece of trim, and so it would be too wide if you cut it like that. So it's going to end up being a little bit smaller than you'd imagine. But I mean, I might just have to show you the first few pictures of my blueprints to show you exactly what I mean. But there's definitely, you definitely have to spend quite a bit of time just looking at the tower and figuring out, because it's the basic structure is just this bottom cube, and then there's this front piece that comes off of the whole thing. But this wall right here is the outer edge of that cube that goes all the way to the other side. So if you cut out that piece, you're fine. But you see there's a little line actually right here.
Yes.
That's the top of the cube. And it's not really in line with this roof either, so it's really hard to tell where that is. But the truth is, it's level with all of this. Everything else is built on top of that. So you have to be certain that like this is the floor, but there's so many different places that you could measure it from, but I promise you it's right there. And you run into even bigger problems when measuring the tower because these little pieces come out and this. And I don't even know if I got it 100% right because I feel like even on the real tower there's more depth issues, and it's like, you want to start with the smallest possible outside piece and then just add more details onto it, right? So that's the hardest part of getting started. But once you've got started, it's just you just look at a bunch of pictures of the tower and you look at the blueprints and you just figure it out and you go.
Definitely. And also, can I show you the closest thing I got to my town model?
Yeah.
It'll be 10 seconds, but I'll be right back.
Yeah, go ahead.
Alright, so if you're curious to see the closest thing I got to a town model, you don't be surprised if it looks like a pile of mud.
Well, we'll see. I mean, my tower is half painted, so I can't judge too hard.
Alright, here we go. Has anybody seen the baking show Nailed It by chance? Do you know the show Nailed It on Netflix?
Nailed It, that cooking show?
Yes, Nailed It found it where contestants try to build a really pretty replica of a professional cake.
I have heard of it, yes.
Alright, so for those who are not familiar, Nailed It consists of 3 contestants trying to replicate a professional cake. However, the contestants are not giving a timer, or like only baking times. The recipes just say bake, and they usually get way less time than is actually needed. So I present to you my nailed it, nailed it,
Uh,
nailed it. I'm not even sure what I'm looking at by this point, but nailed it.
well,
Nailed.
that got smushed.
I'm not sure why that thing. Oh yeah, the alright. Some it got smushed. So it got smushed because I was like cleaning my space up, and I accidentally bottom planted onto it. Then the final wreck was the cat. So here's my secret. So you see this right here is the drop shaft.
Mm-hmm.
And the drop shaft was supposed to be attached to this bottom. But unfortunately, the cat got busy and the drop shaft fell off.
Oh,
So now you got
that still looks pretty good though.
the drop shaft and
Yeah,
you got the other half.
yeah,
Na-
you take that.
Nailed it.
You still got the important part intact, so I'd call it not that.
Thanks. I am curious, what do you consider though the most important part?
The most important part is the just the if it's not just the sign, it's the proportions of the whole thing. And I don't know I know that you understand this, but there's just something so awe-inspiring about the way the tower looks, and I just love it. I love how scary it looks. I love how intimidating and unnatural it looks, and I don't know what exactly to say is the best part other than maybe just the sign. The sign is so iconic, and the elevator doors and all that. But I also love the, and I don't know how exactly to describe this, and I hope maybe someone watching this will understand, but like being in the park and going to see the tower, like it doesn't matter how many pictures you've looked at of the tower. And trust me, I have done that. I've gone on Google and searched Tower of Terror and then just gone through images for like an hour. Like I do that. I love
Same.
looking at there. I When I have gone to the park, and Disney does a really great job of not letting you actually see the thing until you're right there in front of it. So there you are at the very front of Sunset Boulevard, and you see the tower, and there's just something about it. And I really want, if I'm thinking about that, I'm really pointing at like this area. Something about seeing this area in real life, and really just all of the scary, scarred part of the building. It just is such a it feels so real, and I don't even know the word to think of, but it's it's just awesome. It just looks, it's like the coolest thing ever made by man. So I just wanted to replicate it on my own. So I tried my best, but that part in the real ride and the real structure is so well detailed, and it looks so nice and so old and aged. I'd never be able to get it at this scale, but it's I think that this little area right here in the ride, right underneath the sign, is very like it's in real life it hits a lot harder than in pictures. That's my interpretation.
I cannot agree more, but I also have a confession. I literally sit down on my bum, and I literally stare at pictures of the tower for 3 to 4 hours. Sometimes just like scrolling, just looking at the tower. And also, Papa B says, Can we get actual hotel rooms or a lounge? I would say that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I wouldn't care if there was a bunch of elevator noise or ride noise or anything. I don't care. I just want to stay in the Hollywood Tower Hotel. Wouldn't that be
Same.
cool?
And Pop says Tower of Terror is the eighth wonder of the world. It definitely is. It's the best. It's literally the best thing on the planet. It's and side say to butter to bread and butter, but the Tower of Terror is better than bread, better than butter combined.
I would agree. And I know I've said this to you, Tony, but this is the best ride ever made. It's the best thing ever made. Even if you know everything, you could know every little fact about the tower. You could know the whole thing inside out. You could know about the Alpha, Delta, Charlie, all those elevator shafts. You know everything. You'll still go into the ride. The pre-show video will shock up on the TV, and the lightning will be flashing in the window, and you will really feel. You'll be thinking like, oh, this is. I'm here. I'm in the Hollywood Tower Hotel. Not only that, I'm living in my own episode of the Twilight Zone, and seriously, when after the pre-show ends and the little sliding door on the library opens and you walk into the boiler room, you really feel like it's so real. It's you really feel like there's no going back. You're in the Twilight Zone, and it's no matter how much you know, it just does such a good job at really sucking you into the world of the Tower of Terror. And
And that's
another
the best. Sorry,
no, what's up?
sorry. What did you say? My phone cut out.
No, go ahead. Um, Well, I was just gonna say one more thing, just to add to the scariness of the ride. Um, every time I ride the ride, I walk into that elevator where you'd sit down and put your seatbelt on. I walk into that elevator and I'm like, there's no way that this room is gonna be hurtling 40 miles up and down the elevator shaft. Like you ride a drop tower at like Six Flags or whatever, like you can see it. But when you step into the elevator, you notice it's large. I mean, it fits 21 people inside of that car. It's the size of a room, and just thinking about how that thing is going to be hurtling 40 miles an hour up and down, it's just scary. It's larger than life. But it's awesome, and uh I'll never be able to not remember the first time when the doors close for the first time and you feel the whole thing lift up the elevator shaft, and it feels so smooth. You immediately know the ride is going to be smooth from the moment the elevator lifts off the floor, because it just is so smooth. But it's just a wild feat of engineering, and I think it's the coolest thing that men has ever made on the
I
earth.
agree, and I agree for me, and I agree. What I find really wild is thinking about that 10,000 pound ride car getting yanked off the floor, and you're thinking, how is this a thing? How is this room like literally have to like literally one third of the size of the Council of Progress theater seating able to lift up and I actually be hauled up and down as a theater room.
I know, and the fact that it's a motor all the way at the top, and it's just like I don't even know how stuff like that works. Like that's wild, and the steel cables and stuff. Like it's just like what is I don't know. I don't even know what to say about it, because it just kind of scares me in a way. Like, and the other thing that's scary to me is to think that it's just been running kind of like nonstop for the last 30 years. Just like all the time, like your whole life, right? My whole life.
Yes, And my biggest question and curiosity is how does that thing not get exhausted? Like literally, it's like running 12 hours a day, 365 days a year, except for hurricane season. It's like how's that thing able to run without getting tired?
I don't know. I mean, I know they replaced the steel cables not too long ago, but it's just I can't even think about how it's possible like that. Even real elevators are like, how is this possible to me? Like, I don't know.
Yes, and also another really wild thing about town is that there's like two models up on drop shafts. Each of them are the size of a one car garage, and somehow they're on the 13th floor. Like, how is that even possible to have these ginormous mod engines able to sit on top of the tower? And how do they keep the models cool?
I don't know. And I would love to go up there and see the real, go up there into the motor room. And I can't imagine you Tony haven't seen the video where it was back when the tower first opened and they had like a news crew or whatever go up there and you can actually see the motors up in there.
Yes,
And yeah, you've definitely seen it. I know you have, but the one of the newscasters makes a comment like, "Oh, I can feel the whole building shaking," and at the same time, you can see the rotors on the motor like spinning because the ride is operating while they're filming, and it's really cool to see and to think about. Like, I bet it would actually be a little bit nerve wracking to be up there and feel the whole building like shaking. It'd be kind of neat, and you got to imagine too that the elevator really only ever goes up to there, like
yes.
just up to Hollywood, and so there would be an extra gap, where we could potentially go, but the motors would be all the way at the tippy top.
Yep. And also another thing that I find mind blowing is the fact that you literally go up to Hollywood, but there's like, but the tower continues like another 50 feet in the air.
Yeah.
That what I find really wild is that the models are 35 feet, 45 feet in height, and and the fact that the building is meant to like shake and vibrate like wild. Plus, there's like this little couple of thingy right there
Hmm.
where Americans can actually stand and do security surveillance and crowd control for the Magic Kingdom from right to there.
Yeah. Not us normal folk though. Not
Yep.
us. There was one more thing I wanted to say about the tower, and it's I don't remember now though, but if I remember, I'll mention it.
Sounds good. And Pop TV says, as an engineer near myself, this thing is a marvel. I also realized that we're coming up on the hour and 10 minute mark, so I realized that StreamYard might cut me off any minute now. Would you like to do a part two?
Sure, anytime. I mean, I've got a lot to talk about the tower. I've got a lot to talk about the model. I mean, hey, maybe next time I will have a little bit more work done on the model. Maybe I'll have that front part done as well. We can take a look at that.
All right, let's definitely talk about the model next time. And I would love to hear you info dump everything you got, all your knowledge about the tower. You can go on for hours and hours and hours until you H2O it to yourself.
I know I can.
And I
I love
love hearing it.
it. Of course, of course. And I love hearing you talk about the tower. I love seeing someone else who loves the Tower of Terror. I think it's awesome and I think it's worthy of being loved. I think it's totally slept on. A lot of people don't appreciate it, but I think the people who do ride it, they really know it's something special to it. So I'm glad to know that it still has such genuine love for it.
It does like literally. I love the towel so much that I give my towel model's name. Matter of fact, my little towel paper cutout right here is named Marble May Diamond. And before I forget, may I please show you the worst offender tower model in my opinion?
Sure. Yeah.
One second. Let me go get it. All right. This is just an opinion. This is only an opinion for amusement and entertainment purposes only. I will present to you the absolute worst Tower of Terror model in my opinion.
Oh no, not the plushie.
I
No.
know. What do you like about the plushie?
uh I don't think there's anything I like about it. To be, I mean, they've got drop shafts on both sides. face is like in the wrong spot. It's all the way in the bottom.
Yes.
There's not even a sign.
Yes, so right when I saw the plushie, I'm like, something is so wrong with this. Why is there no sign? And literally, why is the face, like, why did you put the face? My big question is, why did you put the face on the bottom? If they don't have a sign on top, they should have put the face on the top and put some decorations on the bottom.
Yeah. I don't know what they were thinking with that. I think it totally looks goofy that there's drop shafts on both sides.
Like, you, I know you don't have to agree with this right now, but honestly, the reason why I consider this model the worst one out of every tower model there is, in my opinion, just out of for me personally, is the fact that it's like literally, it's like they lopped off the, it's like, let's do it from the side. It's like they lopped one side, wrong side. It's like they lopped off the drop shaft, and they say, "Hey, look, enjoy. Here's a drop shaft."
Yeah. I mean, it really wouldn't have been that hard to just put a little bit of an idea of like the back of the tower. I mean, it's just a little pieces of roof and like a window or whatever.
They should have done the back of the tower, and instead, it's as if they lopped off the drop shaft. There's no shame. There's no shame or no bashing the artist or the designers of the plushie. But from like a model standpoint, it is like meh. Just because it's like it's as if it lopped off for the drop shaft. But from a plushie cute standpoint, it's actually very adorable.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with that, and I've seen that before. The other thing, going back to what you asked me and what is important in a model, like what I want to see is I want to see the marks and the scars of where the old part of the building used to be. You don't see anything, not even an indication, but like that to me, I think that was one of the first things that really interested me about the structure of the ride was just that it looked like part of it had been blown away by something, you know. So that is just a little bit too cutesy for me.
Definitely. Do you, by chance, speaking of models, do you have a Funko Pop model of the tower by chance?
I do.
Can I see it?
Yeah, I'll go.
Oh my gosh,
I'll go grab all of my models of the tower.
I would love to see all your models. And Adam's getting the models to chat says, "Thank you so much for agreeing to be Tony's guest tonight. Awesome. Woo! Heck yes."
All right.
So here is the models. Let's see them all.
This is the Funko Pop model.
Oops.
You can see. I'll tell you. This model is accurate. This is to scale. This looks and feels just like the real tower.
That is what I really hope to get someday. If I could get anything in the world right now, I'd be getting my hands on the Funko Pop model.
I had been seeing this thing. My wife got this for me.
Aww.
I think it was a year ago on my birthday, and I remember seeing this and thinking like, man, like my model's better than that. Like this is tiny, but this is really nice, and all of the details are there all along each side of the building. It looks really nice. I also have this. This is the Metalworks model of the tower. You might have seen.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, and this is again a victim of the browning of the tower. This is
Yeah, it is.
this is my last model. This I actually got at Disney World. This is it's a Christmas tree ornament, and it's a little model. Is that Minnie and
Aww.
Mickey? I guess.
I would absolutely love that so much. Like, it feels like I'm like in the pet store right now looking at cute puppies.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That's all I've got.
It's okay, it's okay. I just love them so much. Like, oh,
Uh,
I just want to cuddle and hug them all.
this I genuinely haven't seen this anywhere else except in my hand, and I just found it at Disney World a year and a half ago.
Lovely.
But all the time I go on Facebook Marketplace or eBay, I just search up Tower of Terror, and you'll find all sorts of stuff you've never seen before. T-shirts and like glass. I even have my mom once found me a Tower of Terror shot glass at Goodwill.
Lovely.
So that was cool. Pretty rare, like kind of a weird thing to find, right? But yeah, I love the Tower of Terror, as you can see.
Same. I love it so much that literally I dedicate most of my life, basically 90% of my life, to the Tower of Terror. And that's like my biggest confession right now, is I dedicate so much of my life and my time to the tower. And hello, Nathan. Good to see you.
Yep. Well, it's a beautiful thing. I do not blame you one bit.
Definitely, it was so good to talking to you. Do you have any last things to say before StreamYard might kick us out in a minute?
I don't think so. I mean, I feel like I really was able to talk about a lot. I appreciate you having me on. I haven't been able to talk about my model in this capacity ever. And I just hope that there's people out there who want to make their own tower model, and that mine gives them at least something to look at, to base something off of. I mean, I don't think it was that hard. I don't think it was hard. So it's totally possible, and you're lucky because it's a really square, with a lot of right angle shapes. So it's really easy to carve out of something like foam.
It was an absolute pleasure talking to you. And you know what feels amazing is being able to talk about the Tower of Tower in such an intense capacity. And I just love hearing, and I have so much fun and such a great time talking with people who can really get into the tower with me.
Of course, of course. I don't think I've ever met somebody like that, but I really appreciate the time. And I very much look forward to doing a part two. I very much look forward to continuing to work on my tower model. And I will promise you, or maybe I won't, I don't want to promise, but I'll try my best to the next time I am on here to have the front part of the model so we can really start to see, and maybe some of the side, the detailing and all that too. Just we really, talk about it and, all that good stuff.
All right, it was so good to see you, everybody. Have a wonderful night.
Have a good
Thank you
night.
so much, Chaz, Pops, Nathan, CJL, and everybody for being here. And thank you so much to all the Ninja Rockers watchers.
Yeah, of
Have a great time. Have a good night, everybody. Bye. And thank you so much, Adam. Bye bye.
course. Bye. Thank you, Tony. It was great talking to you.